This is the picture of this podcast. Today, are phones ruining photography?
Some people think so.
Yeah, I kind of do. I think they've changed things drastically. I think people don't put any time into their pictures now. I think 90% of the pictures we see are people's foods. Pictures have no meaning whatsoever. They're free and people just take millions of them and then they just get thrown away and lost forever and nobody cares.
See, I think we've opened it up to more people and that there's more opportunity to find talented photographers, that more people are trying and appreciating photography, and that there are more opportunities to get your photos seen.
All right, well, who makes this debate possible?
This podcast is brought to you by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, website, or online store, make your next move with Squarespace. They have beautiful award-winning templates, an all-in-one platform, 24/7 customer support. If you can drag and drop, you can make a Squarespace. And hey, you can start your free trial today. Just go to squarespace.com and use the offer code portfolio to get 10% off. Thanks, Squarespace.
Thank you, Squarespace.
Okay, more people are learning photography. At one point, you had to get a camera, which wasn't always cheap.
No,
often they were very expensive. I can remember just having a camera in your family was a big deal. And then when it was film was extremely expensive to develop. And if you were learning, you were messing up most of the shots.
Yeah, you get whole rolls that were messed up, and then you'd go to the CVS and you'd have to pay for all these shots when nothing turned out.
Yeah, there was a huge barrier to entry. Now it's so nice. It's so accessible. More people are able to take pictures, right? I see kids taking pictures all the time, and I hear people say, oh, camera phones, that's not real photos. You know, you're not learning about ISO or f-stops. But what they are learning is composition, lighting, storytelling. I've seen my own teenage daughter with her friends say, oh, stand in front of this so they can see that we're at the beach, or stand here because the light is better. They're not learning the camera first. They're learning the art first and the storytelling first. I like that.
That sounds good to me too, except that a lot of them are not learning photography. They're just holding it up and they're just snapping. And they're doing the same things that happened when point and shoot cameras first came out, you know, when they first had auto exposure and they first had autofocus, and it made it more accessible to people, but it made thoughtless photography more prevalent. And so, yeah, some people are learning those things, but most of them, I see them hold them up, put the subject in the middle of the frame, and they snap it.
But I would have to ask what percentage. So you're always going to have people, even when people were buying a proper camera, that were just taking crummy, meaningless photos, putting them in a shoebox, and then torturing their family with a slideshow at some point in time, or a photo album, like a whole album, not just scroll through my social media without me looking and maybe see a picture and tap it twice to like it, but like a whole photo album with an explanation for every photo. Now, more people are doing photography. We're seeing a lot more people making meaningless photos, but there are also so many more people showing their point of view, right? So when photography was more restrictive, we only got to see the view of the people that could afford a camera. Now we're seeing people from all over, all different cultures, all different socioeconomic backgrounds, and we get to see the world through their eyes. I think it's amazing.
Fine, you win this one, Chelsea. But Instagram is making some ridiculous fads.
Yeah.
Like, remember the cheesy shots where everybody would put their legs in the shot when they were at the beach?
Yeah.
And because everything is on the internet now and everybody can see it from their phones, one person comes up with a cool shot and then everybody else drives it into the ground instantly. What about the shot where the woman's walking ahead and her hand is back?
Let's do it.
Oh.
Okay, you do make a point. There's some pretty, well, first they seem cool and then they become horrible fads. But hasn't that always been? Don't you remember 80s glamour shots or the Olin Mills where there's a floating head in the corner? I mean, it happened before, but just not as quick as a cycle.
Yeah, but I flip through my feed and I feel like I recognize 1 out of 3 pictures as being part of some big trend.
You see it come in waves, right? It's like, oh, this color palette is in style, and then it's like, oh, everyone did it, now it's out, and then
or there's some new 99-cent app that does something magical to the photo, and the first time you see it, you're like, whoa, that's so cool, and then the 400th time you see it, you're like, I am so sick of that app.
But I do get tired of those same things, but it keeps people trying to learn something new and kind of outdo the other person.
No, I won that one.
You declare the winner every time. This is making it really hard for me. Hey,
No, nobody makes prints anymore.
that's true.
Everybody consumes pictures on their mobile phone. In fact, most people, if you're watching this video on YouTube, most people are watching it on a tablet or a mobile phone. Mobile devices have taken over even computers.
Yeah.
Even in the beginning of digital photography, we'd be sitting at a desk with your 17-inch CRT or something, but you'd be looking at the picture in a nice big format. Now you're holding the phone vertically, and the picture's either square or horizontal, so it takes up like the size of 2 postage stamps put together. Not that anybody knows what a postage stamp is anymore.
Oh, whoa, you're having a real old man rant kind of day. How big is your phone that it's 2 postage stamps? Or how big are your stamps?
I use big stamps. Anyway, people don't take the time to make prints anymore. Not very often. We have a lot of prints, but even we don't make as many prints as you used to. And it used to be every picture was going to be a print. It was going to be this permanent record. You know what happened to our daughter the other day? Her phone broke and she never had a backup of it. And therefore, all her pictures are just gone. Like her phone is locked. It is unrecoverable unless we contact the FBI or somebody.
We should. If you're out
she'll have
there.
to commit a federal crime.
Okay.
But it might be worth it because she's lost all her photos. And when in the days when you made prints, maybe there'd be a house fire or something, but our grandparents still have those photo albums with all the pictures in them. But digital pictures probably aren't going to last that long. What about all the pictures you put up on MySpace? You had a sweet MySpace, Chelsea. It's all gone now.
That's actually one thing I really agree with. People aren't making as many prints, and there's something about having a print out on the wall and living with it where you're experiencing your photography in a new way and you're watching the photo evolve over time. It sounds kind of silly, but I'll look at something and be like, oh, I wouldn't have done it that way anymore. It makes me want to go out and shoot. It makes me think about my photography more.
Yeah, every picture now was taken in the last 15 minutes.
Oh, but do you remember photo albums? It would be almost the same picture. I don't know about everyone else, but in mine it would be like the same picnic, almost the same picture, like 20 times. And then when you went through it, it wasn't like, wow, what a beautiful scene. It was like, he's dead, he's not, you knew him once. I don't know. It wasn't good. It wasn't good.
No, photo albums still sucked.
Yeah, they did.
What about the guy who had to do the slideshow? I know your grandpa had one of those big slideshow things. He must have tortured his friends with those.
Yeah.
I had a teacher who would do them, and he'd bring in this, like he'd go on vacation and he'd come back after we had a substitute, and he'd have like this big thing of 70 slides, and he'd think he was enriching our lives, but really he'd just be boring us. Like it'd be him standing next to a waterfall, him standing next to trees, click, clink.
And I bet you would have killed for one of those dumb hand-holdy pictures. That would have been interesting.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
So people don't take time with their photos anymore.
Right. Well, it used to cost you some money, right? And you would be getting 24 or 36 pictures on a roll, and you would actually have to take your time. Or even in the digital era, back when we had SD cards and we had to take the SD card out and put it into our computer and import it, you'd get sick of having to go through so many pictures. So you'd start to at least try to narrow down the shots you were taking so it wouldn't take so long in post. But nowadays most people on phones are just taking pictures and it's right there. And you just snap away all the time. I flip through my pictures on my smartphone and most of them mean nothing to me.
Everyone is special to me like a child. Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak to this one because even when I shot film, I was kind of fast and loose with taking pictures. I know people say they slow down. I just made more permanent mistakes. So I think it's a really quick way to learn. I mean, you can take 10 pictures and you can look at them right away and say, oh, none of these work. I'll try a different angle. Like you're learning much quicker. If you don't have skin in the game, you don't have to go home and process the photos and find out a roll of film didn't work. You're just like, oh, that doesn't work. Here, turn the other way. Get your back to the light. Get your front to the light.
I think what you're saying is I'm right on that one.
Why is there winning at the end of each slide? Did you introduce that?
It sounds like the words of somebody who's losing.
It's like,
oh, winning doesn't matter now that you're on the wrong end of it.
You made this a competition, but then you're also declaring the winner, but it's always you.
It's a modern world, Chelsea. This is how it works.
Man, it hurts.
People don't have a purpose with their photos either. I feel like back when your mom used to line all the kids up to get a photo, she was thinking about how this was going to be used. You know, she was like, Tony's going to have a future girlfriend in 12 years, or in my case, like 15 years. And I will embarrass
18. Let's not lie.
It's a long time. And nowadays I see people just being like, oh, this is what I ate today. But they're not thinking about how they're going to use this photo. It's a meaningless photo with no purpose that will be immediately forgotten.
So savage. I don't know. I can see that. There are definitely a lot of dead pictures that you're not going to share them in the future. They're only relevant in the moment, but that's kind of how photography has evolved. So people are taking pictures and then immediately sending them to a friend. That's kind of how Snapchat works. You're just like, take a picture of your face. Hi, I'm alive. How are you? You're just letting people know that you're there, what you're doing, what your expression is. It's a different way of communicating. Photography has just evolved.
Evolution doesn't always go in the right direction.
Oh my gosh.
Another win for me. You know what? I brushed my teeth earlier, and I have one of those toothbrushes that like times you for 2 minutes. I must have gone through like 50 pictures on Instagram.
You sound 100 years old today.
Because even though I'm in the field, I don't even look at people's pictures. I just flip through it. I'm like picture, 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 and then every 5 pictures I'll see one I like, and I'm like tap, tap, and then scroll, 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 scroll.
Yeah.
So even if people were putting effort into their photos, and I know some people are putting a ton of effort into them, nobody's seeing them because we're so inundated with meaningless photos now that we just keep flipping right through them and hoping something catches our eye.
Yeah, there's a lot more scrolling than stopping, I'll say that. But I'll definitely stop at a really stunning photo and kind of examine the scene. Or if it's someone's kids that I know or something, I always like to, like they're growing up, they have Harry Potter pajamas or whatever.
I double down on the scrolling then. Once it's somebody else's kids.
I like it. I like it. You cruel man. Tony, tell us who made all of your cruel opinions possible.
Squarespace. If you actually want your pictures to look awesome, whether they're on a computer or being viewed on a smartphone, Squarespace is the right place to get a portfolio. You can set up a Squarespace website for free at squarespace.com/Tony. It'll be a 14-day free trial. Put your best photos on there, and then you can send your friends there. And rather than just flipping past your Instagram feed, they can go back there and see your best work. Because if you are a person who's putting time into your work, you'll need some place to show it where your pictures aren't getting mixed in with everybody's breakfast meals. And
Breakfast meal.
This is an error on the teleprompter.
Yeah.
So the right place to go is squarespace.com/Tony. Get your free trial. And if you like it, which you will, use the coupon code portfolio and you'll get 10% off.
I feel like I'm with your alter ego today. This is what I'm going to have to deal with in like 40 years.
I feel like you're losing so hard today that you're just lashing out. Hurt people hurt, Chelsea.
Breakfast meal? We judge our work by likes. You made this slide. I want to hear your argument.
Well, it used to be you judged your own work by its merits, whether you were happy with the results, whether it communicated what you were trying to communicate. But nowadays, we get that instant feedback from people. How many people bothered to spend 1.5 seconds viewing and double tapping a picture? And that can really lead us astray. I know in my own work, especially on Instagram, I will put hours, days, weeks, months into a photo and put it on Instagram, and it'll get some likes. But I can hold my phone at arm's length and take a selfie, and it will get more likes.
Wow, I know that happens to me. It's infuriating. I'll spend so much time putting together a shoot and having a makeup artist, and I'll just take a selfie and be like, I look cool today. So many likes.
Yeah, I will get more
more
likes of the picture of me and you and the model than with the picture that we actually made of the model. And where does that lead you? And so many people do this, and you get this reinforcement because we love being liked,
Does
right?
that make you put up more pictures like that?
It definitely makes me think of it, yeah, because I never put up a selfie before I had this revelation that everybody wanted to see selfies, and now I'm like, all right, I might as well do that. People like it.
Yeah, I guess that has in some way slightly changed my social media, but not necessarily my photography. I'll also say that before social media, people were putting their photos in galleries, and if you know how a gallery works, you want your photo to sell, or else they don't want you showing your art at the gallery anymore, and then your art is being influenced by money, which isn't likes, but you're putting in there what sells, which is probably why every gallery around us has sailboats and oceanscapes. So, I mean, your art can be influenced. It's up to you to say, hey, I'll do one for them, one for me, or say, hey, this is my art. I'm not going to change it for likes or whatever. That's something you're up against.
Justin, could you just mark down one more point for me? Thanks, Justin.
You crotchety old man.
20 years ago, most of the photos we saw were taken by professionals because we saw photos in magazines. We read newspapers every day and we saw professionally taken photos there. And now, what are the percentage of photos that we see that are professional? Like, it's got to be like 1% or 2%, right? Because we're so inundated with just mediocre snapshots that it has skewed the way we see things. If you're human, then you learn things by example. And we're learning by bad examples now because of smartphones, because of the prevalence of cameras and the way that photos are shared nowadays.
Okay. I think we are seeing a smaller percentage of paid professionals, but it's actually kind of messing up everything because now it's harder to even like get hired as a photographer because companies are just stealing pictures from people's social media. I mean, that is a real problem in the industry, but I don't necessarily think that the skill is gone. I mean, I've seen photographers that, you know, they're young kids and they just have a crazy idea and they go out and they take pictures. They start on their smartphone, then they get a camera, a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, and then they're an amazing photographer. And that passion was sparked by their smartphone, a really accessible, easy to use tool that's always on them. I don't see what's wrong with that. It's not a skill that was, you know, honed and then validated by a magazine or a gallery or a newspaper first. They didn't have gatekeepers, but they're getting to be successful on their own. It's cutting out the gatekeepers. Sometimes we see crappy photos, but sometimes we get to see skilled photographers that we would have never known if it weren't for just this accessibility and availability.
That was a really good point. I mean, the point still goes to me. I don't know if we have mercy rules here or if we just keep going, even though it seems like we all know.
Everything is post-processed, except for those pictures where people have the puppy dog ears.
Yeah, because that's real.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah, nowadays, if you don't post-process your picture, you throw up hashtag no filter like you're some sort of modern hero, like you spent hours in the dark room or something slaving over it. No.
You did less work.
Yeah, exactly. And people are like, whoa, he's so brave using no filter.
I don't think that's what no filter means. No filter is like, here's a sunset picture. Yeah, those are the real colors. I didn't enhance them.
But even by default, a lot of smartphone cameras now will detect faces and skin and smooth that skin. It doesn't even necessarily disclose it, but it's doing some kind of portrait-y post-processing stuff.
Ooh.
And as a result, we're not even seeing, even in these very casual selfies, we're not even seeing what real humans look like. And 20 years ago, everybody was concerned about the cover of Cosmo and how airbrushed everything was, and that was distorting people's image of what human body was supposed to look like. But nowadays, our smartphones are doing that for everything.
Yeah, but everybody knows about it. It's not a secret anymore. When it was the fashion industry, then people didn't even know what photo editing was. It wasn't accessible or viewed as often, but now everyone knows that people use filters. I think that's just expected, actually. I hardly ever see someone take a selfie of themselves without a filter on it.
Yeah, this is true. But I guess, yeah, man, I almost said I think you're right on that.
Wow. I am. Your next slide is stills are dying. Explain.
video is killing stills. And I don't necessarily think that's bad, but it is changing everything. Even by default now, the iPhone will make these live photos. So if you go to take a still photo, it will take a little short video clip.
I like that because then you can pick the best, like within that 1 second, you can pick the best pose.
And I like seeing that little bit of movement in the photos. It's cool. You hold your finger on it and it'll play it back. And I think that's cool, but I'm a person who likes video. And if we bring up the discussion of whether phones are killing stills, like this is definitely part of it. And with the increase in bandwidth now, it's much easier to share and consume video clips. Video clips play automatically on just about every social media platform. So more and more people are sharing videos instead of stills, but I think that trend will continue, and pretty soon there won't be any reason to share just a single frame of something.
I don't see that happening now. I don't see that video is more popular than stills. On Instagram, it's extremely easy to take a video, and people still don't take videos in their feed. They'll do it in their story.
Yeah.
But even then, stills are still more popular, and I think part of the reason that is that a still is easier to manipulate. So if you're taking video, it's much harder to make somebody look good or use filters. That technology is just not caught up, the editing of video.
Yeah.
And people have kind of used that crutch. And like photoshopping, people are removing things in the background, even people that aren't professional photographers, even people that just have a smartphone for their photography, they have editing apps. My niece, she doesn't even care about photography. She couldn't blow a bubble for a picture, so she cut it out of one picture and put it into another on her phone on some app. I don't even know which one it was. So just the average person is now editing their photos in pretty complex ways. They don't know how to do that with video yet.
Yeah, you're right. Technology hasn't quite caught up, but I do think that's the direction it's going.
I can see it going in that direction, but it's not there.
And you just brought up a good point. Now everybody thinks your niece can blow bubbles, but really she's just spreading a lie because of smartphones.
She can't. She lied.
Oh man, I can't believe you just outed her like this.
I did. Don't tell her. My last point was that photos are used to communicate now. So it's not necessarily the death of photography. It's an evolution of photography. I brought up this point earlier because it came up, but people are using photos in different ways. They don't have to share some big moment. It's not about a grand vacation. It can sometimes just be a photo you send to your friend to say, hey, what's up? Or I messed up my eyebrow makeup today, or I got a splinter, or any little tiny message that's easier to share with a picture. People do. It can be a funny squirrel or a sign that's misspelled. It's like, it doesn't have to be an art anymore. It's just an easy way to communicate. So the art isn't dying, just photos are being used in a different way. And I think that's okay. And my summary for this whole thing would be that things change. Photography is changing. Technology will always be changing photography, and our lifestyle will always be changing photography. I don't think that the smartphone is killing it. I think it's evolving it, changing it, expanding it, and making photography more accessible to more people so we can view more people's lives. I think it's great. I love the technology. That's my view of it.
I think photography should stay the exact same way it was when I joined photography. Whenever that period of time was, it should have stayed that way.
I'm surprised to hear that from the guy that has a really high-tech toothbrush.
Well, I have been playing the devil's advocate, but I concede this one to you. You're absolutely right that photography is only ruined if you think of it as needing to stay static.
Yeah.
But it has forever changed and there's no going back.
There's no going back. You may as well just try to keep up and make it change for the better. So tell us what you think down below. And thank you, Squarespace, for making this podcast possible. If you'd like to show your photos off, your best photos, not just pictures of your meals, go to squarespace.com/Tony and use the coupon code portfolio to get 10% off. Or just enjoy your 14-day free trial. Thanks, Squarespace.
Thank you. And thanks, Chelsea, for being such a good sport about that difficult defeat that you faced.
Tony,